everyone. Thanks for listening to the Adulting is Easy podcast. This is Lauren, and I manage the Adulting is Easy blog and podcast, which can be found at realadultingiseasy.com and anywhere you listen to podcasts. Please take a second and hit the follow button if you can safely do so. I'm joined today by Tom, a.k.a. the Frugal Gay. Tom is passionate about living debt-free, a side hustle enthusiast, and an avid real estate investor. Hailing from Dallas, Texas, Tom is a 37-year-old married dog dad and founder of the Frugal Gay. Thanks for joining me, Tom.
Thanks for having me. I'm excited to be here with you today.
Our goal for today is to make adulting a bit easier for our listeners by discussing a personal finance topic, since managing money is a big part of adulting. So today we're going to dive into what basically amounts to a real estate success story and learning how one man and his husband currently collect 15 rents and also own a mortgage. And we're going to talk about, your goals for the future and if you plan on slowing down anytime soon. But before we dive in too deep, why don't you kick us off by telling us how you got into real estate?
So I kind of fell into it. My parents were always into it. And at 21, when I was in college, I was tired of renting, and it was my senior year of college, and I just knew that house hacking or house hack, something along those lines, was for me. So when I was 16, my dad filled out my paperwork at the Gap, and he signed me up for a Gap purchase stock plan. And I was 19 when I realized that where all this money was going. I just assumed it was taxes, so I really didn't know what I was doing with this, but the money kept disappearing from my check. So anyways, at 21, I took the opportunity to sell off the Gap stock. I had just over $10,000, and I used that as a down payment on my first multifamily property when I was 21. So I lived in the small unit, and I rented out the big unit, and it covered almost like 80% of my house payment. So I couldn't find anywhere I could live for less than $200, and doing this let me live there for less than $200. So that is kind of how I fell into it.
Right. So you fell into it, but you also knew you wanted to house hack. How did that happen? I don't know that people normally think that way.
I had roommates through college. I had some terrible roommates. I had a roommate steal my car.
What?
I had crazy roommates all through college, and I knew I didn't want to live in the same house as them, but I knew that I wanted to generate income without having them sleeping in the room next to me. And this duplex that I found was in Toledo, Ohio, right by the university. And it had a tiny upstairs, and it was super dated. It was built in the 1920s, and the downstairs was really nice. There was a couple that had finished that, and then they kind of used the upstairs as a place for company to come, and they just kind of ignored it. So I saw that as a great opportunity to get in and get started. And I knew I wanted to own real estate. I remember like second grade painting houses with my dad. I remember he bought a house with a dark room in it, and I helped him tear out a sink and all kinds of craziness to turn it back into a bedroom. So it's always been with me. And this was kind of my in, and my dad kind of set me up for it without even me knowing he set me up for it. I just assumed, because basically my whole Gap check just went to buying clothes. As quick as I got it, I would spend it. And I just thought that I was just paying an exorbitant amount of tax. And again, I was 21 or 19 at the time when I realized what was happening. But he set me up for that first purchase without me even knowing it, which was an awesome surprise.
Do you think he thought you were going to buy real estate with that stock money eventually?
I don't think that he thought that. No, I think he was even a little bit disappointed, because I think he wanted me to hold that Gap stock. At the time, this is the early 2000s, Gap was going crazy. He came out with my grandma, and they went house. There were 3 properties. I got it down to 3 properties, and he came out, and when he saw this one and he saw how nice the downstairs was and how much you could rent it for, he kind of gave his blessing at that moment. He's like, this is the right one. My grandma got up the stairs to the second one. She's like, they didn't like the other ones, and they're like, this is the right one. And here I am 16 years later, and I still have it. It's still in my portfolio. I have, it's paid off now, and it's been a really good property for me. over the past 6 years, it was rough at the beginning because I had to do everything, but now it's turned into a one of my favorite whole. I mean, it clears $800 a month in profit for me right now. So, and that's because everything is done. I've done the roof, I've done the windows, I've done everything you could think of pretty much there over the past 17 years. But he understood my desire to stop paying so much in rent. And I know we have partnered on some of my acquisitions over the past 16 years. And he's always, like last year during COVID, he came down to Texas and was painting with me and helping me pick up floors from Sam's Club. And he definitely, he gets what I'm doing. And he has sent me in, now that he's gotten older, to some of his messy projects to go clean up and remodel and set it up right for him. So it's worked out well for both of us.
That's awesome. That's really cool. Yeah, I mean, you have to live somewhere, so if you had to use the stock money to pay for the place you were living, then so be it.
I do have gap stock in my portfolio again. I just at the time I was just like, I need money to buy a house and this is what I have. So
For sure. And you kind of just got almost free money to you because you didn't know you had it. So
for sure.
yeah, that's perfect. Yeah, I house hacked my first time too, but I did actually have somebody move into my house. Like I just thought, okay, I'll get a roommate, right? Like you said, you're used to having roommates, especially when you're younger. I didn't think to do like a duplex house hack or a multi house hack until I didn't even do it until 2020 for the first time. And now 2021, we're doing it at a different place.
And I've done roommates again when I started in Dallas because so I've done it again and I've had very good experiences. It was just a rough patch at the beginning that kind of turned me off, and I just didn't want to try and go down that road again.
But you did.
I did, yes. I mean, at the one in Dallas that I had a roommate, he actually lived with me for about 5 years, and he was covering the whole mortgage. I mean, I was living completely, his rent was covering the whole mortgage and the HOA dues, and I basically paid electric and water. And I mean, where can you live and just pay, $200 a month?
No, you can't. Exactly.
So I've done it again. I've definitely wouldn't discourage.
That's wild. The car stealing story is wild. So then so obviously that property, great property. It's worked out really well. You still own it. But your second one, not so great.
Second one was definitely my dud. And I still call it my money pit. So this was 2005. This was back when you literally would just sign a piece of paper and they'd give you a loan. I had no business buying a second property because I had no down payment. I mean, I was making like $10 an hour at the Gap, or at that point I had transitioned over to another company, and I had no business buying a second place. But anyways, I bought this house. It's a single family right outside of Cleveland, Ohio. I wanted to be closer to family. I bought it for $85,000. And shortly after that, I quit my job, and I just did not like my boss. And this was my first out of college job. And I was unemployed for a while. So I side hustled, and it was never a money pit as far as I couldn't afford the bills. It was a money pit as far as once I took my job that I'm currently at, which I've been at for 15 years, and I was transferred to Texas, it was just hard to try and rent something 17-hour drive away. And it was also constantly putting money into it, and I really never made money on it. I held on to it from 2005 to 2014, and on my birthday in 2014, I sold it. I had to write a check to at closing to the title company, and I was so excited to write that $3,000 check because I knew I never had to pay anything else on that house again.
Wow.
So I held it as long as I could, and I offset the losses by making profits on Dallas properties that I had picked up when I lived here. But that was a money pit for many years. And even to this day, I was just visiting family last week, and I drove by it, and I get goosebumps when I drive by it in the bad way. Like I'm just so happy to have that one out of my life and not have to pay another dime there.
Mm-hmm. Well, I like this story because it doesn't end there. I don't think anybody would have blamed you if you never tried again at real estate after that one, or in general after this gigantic real estate crash that happened in 2008. So I think it's a good story in the sense that you didn't let that get you down or let that stop you at all.
Definitely not. So then I had to go back to renting. And when my company moved me down to Dallas, they said, you can come down here for 6 months. You can spend 6 months down here, and then we'll move you back up to Ohio. And that was totally a lie. And that was okay because I saw Dallas, the economy was so much, it was thriving even during the downturn. And I saw so much opportunity here that you just didn't have in Ohio. So it was a awesome move and kind of worked itself out. So in 2009, this is 4 years after I bought the money pit, when I went to go take out the loan for this third property, which was a condo, it was like I was almost traumatized by the new loan experience. It was night and day. I'm like, are you kidding? There were questions,
Yeah.
all kinds of like, why are you spending this? And I'm like, really? But I mean, they're like, you go to the 99-cent store a lot. And I'm like, I know I do. I buy groceries. Leave me alone. It was that type of process.
Wow.
So I stuck with it. And it's crazy when you think about it. But this third acquisition was a 2-bedroom, 2.5-bath condo in Dallas. And I got it for $26,500.
Wow. And the loan experience was that bad.
And I know, and they're tormenting me over 26. I had a little down payment at that point, but it was torture for this $26,000 loan. And here we are now 13 years after it. And it's like, I can't even believe that I would want to borrow that amount. Why could I not figure that much out?
I know, right? That's
but
what it sounds like.
I did it, and I got through the process, and I got the condo, and I had $4,000 left. And $4,000 left was my bonus from work, my side hustle money. At this point, I had started, and all through college and through, I mean, for as long as I can remember, I've side hustled. I am a big merchandise flipper. I paid for a semester of college by selling purses on eBay. I really don't care what the item is if I know that it'll sell. When I bought the purses, I remember they were marking them at the store, and I saw that they were marking them for $1.50, and I'm like, oh my god, those are diesel purses, I'm gonna buy these. And I just let the lady keep marking them $1.50, and I pushed the whole cart up to the checkout, and I'm like, I want all of these. And I bought all the purses, and this is before eBay even had buy it now, so I had to sell them 2 at a time because there were 2 colors. But I sold them for $70 a piece on average on eBay, and that paid for a semester of college. So anyways, I had $4,000 left, and I used that $4,000 from side hustle money from my bonus at work, and I fixed this $26,000 condo, and I put as much gay glitter and anything I could come up with, I put it in there. I mean, I became an IKEA expert, buying, the scratch and dent stuff and putting it together and missing pieces, and I just made it work. And that was my third acquisition, and that's the one that really kind of got me rolling there in 2009.
Mm-hmm. I want to pause really quickly and just remind, especially the super young listeners, and actually they don't even have to be super young anymore, right? I'm 31. I was 18 in 2008, right? So I I went to college, basically like my 18th birthday was the week Lehman Brothers crashed, right? So, and I was in my freshman year of college at the time. So I lived through that. And then I graduated during the recession. But people that are really any younger than me don't really remember what that was like, or it wasn't really real for them. I think some people remember when they were kids, like, oh, the house, something's going on with the houses and not worth, mom and dad's house isn't worth as much as it was or whatever. But people need to understand a little bit of why that happened. And there's a lot of really great books on it. I've read 2. One is Too Big to Fail, and one is Confessions of a Subprime Lender. And it's about that time period. And they would do what's called a ninja loan, no income, no job or assets loans. So now when you buy a house, and I have blogs and podcasts on this, on the process to buy a house, but they want your income for the last couple of years via taxes. They want pay stubs. When you submit your pay stubs, when you first get approved, you need to submit them again right before you close. And the couple times me and Eric have bought places or refinanced recently, they called our jobs and asked our jobs.
We just did a refinance, and they literally called the day of the refinance and
Yes.
made sure we were still employed. So yeah.
Well, not only that, they asked both of our because Eric works for a company, but he's like now he's also a partner. But they asked his partner, what are his chances of continued employment, like on a percentage basis?
Yeah.
And when is his next raise going to be? And actually, last year, they asked him that question and he was like, oh, I guess you are kind of due for a raise. And he gave him a raise, which was kind of funny. But like, it's crazy what they need now. And they used to need nothing. They would even loan you more than the value of the home, which is just like because everything was going up so quickly. So it was an insane time. So I don't know if people really understand what was going on then, but there were a lot of reasons, right? A lot of things were, Wall Street was to blame and certainly got the brunt of the blame. But there, realtors, brokers, lenders, buyers, right?
Mm-hmm.
There were a lot of people to blame for what happened, but you could have 5 houses and have no proof of income. Like I can't state this enough. Like it was insane back then. So that's what I was saying that you were talking about, Tom, when you're talking about like all I did was sign a piece of paper and then 4 years later you went to buy and you were like, what is this? Honestly, that crash did, for buying homes what 9/11 did for airplane travel. Really, it changed everything.
For sure.
So do you still own that condo?
No, I sold that one. I traded up. That was a 2-bedroom, 2.5 bath, and then I traded up to a 3-bedroom, 3-bath townhouse and used every side hustle penny I had at that moment, and I renovated that one. That one was really rough, and I got lucky that I got a bank to give me a loan on that one because it had broken pipes and
Oh,
it was rough. It had been on the market for forever, and I had looked at like 37 houses, and I just told my realtor, I'm like, let's just throw in this offer and see if they'll take it, and they took it.
so it
So
was like really low
yeah,
offer.
yeah, it was a $60,000 3-bedroom, 3-bath, and I sold that one in 2017 for 195. So it was a huge,
Wow.
yeah. And I did put almost 20,000 into it. So I had 80 into it, but I still, 2 years later was able, or a couple years later was able to walk away with 195, which just positioned me stronger for the next couple of deals.
Hmm. So at that point, you only owned your first place, your money pit, and then you owned the condo, and then you owned the townhouse, and then you owned whatever you traded the townhouse up for, or were you buying other stuff at the same
No,
time?
so the year after that, condos were just ignored. They were cheap. Nobody wanted to rent them. Nobody wanted
Yep.
to live in them, to fix them, to do anything with them. So I really anything I could side hustle and make money on. I have not carried debt since 2011 on credit cards. I paid those off, and then I started buying whatever I could afford cheap enough. And I picked up a condo in 2010. I picked up one a year pretty much consistently over the last 10 or so years since 2011. And
Amazing.
some years I've done two, and some years I've bought duds and I've traded those up. I've never, besides my money pit, I've never really had a one that's lost money, but there have been flips in there where I've only made a couple $1,000s and it was a whole lot of work. And when you look back
Right.
on it, you're like, why did I waste 3 months doing this? But when I started doing some 1031 like kind exchanges, I went back into Ohio because you can pick up these awesome multifamily properties I picked up in 2017. I'm sorry, 2018. We bought a 4-unit building with a commercial space, and I was able to use one of those condo monies sales, which was like $80,000 as a down payment on that. So I have all the ones that I like here still in Texas, and then I've built up kind of half my portfolio in Ohio and half in Texas now.
Gotcha. Okay. So what's it like buying now versus buying in 2010, 2011?
So it's super competitive now, and Dallas is hard. We picked up one last year during COVID because it was a friend of ours that was selling it, and we still are always looking for stuff in Texas, but it's super competitive, and anything that needs a little bit of work, there's so many hungry flippers that are just waiting with cash in hand to buy that property.
Yeah.
I can tell you between myself and my husband, we are so aggressively approached because early on we didn't have all these properties in our LLC. We had some
Hmm.
in our name. So anything that still has our
Yeah.
name attached to it, we're texted like 43 times a day
Uh-huh.
and
Yep.
asked like, do you want to sell this? So it's a different, and Ohio is not like that yet, but it is more competitive now.
Gotcha. Okay. Yeah, no, totally. It is totally different, but you're still buying. And that's the thing that I want people to understand. Granted, you're buying for the most part in a different area, but look, you picked up one last year in Dallas. I just I hear this a lot. Why are you buying? Should I wait? Whether it's the stock market, whether it's the real estate market, like should I wait? And my answer pretty much is no, because you don't know what the future holds.
For
Could
sure.
there be could there be a 20% crash in values of stocks or real estate? Sure. But it might go up 20, 30, 40% before that happens.
And that's really where I got ahead, because in
Yeah.
2010 to 2014, they were all the real estate was at the bottom of them. I mean, nobody wanted it, and that's where,
Mm-hmm.
as I started to sell off some of those and trade them up, that positioned me. I have a 2013 that I just sold off earlier this year. I bought it for 15,000. I put $9,000 into it, and I sold it in this year in March for 97,000 after 11 days on the market. So
Wow.
do I think waiting is the answer? Definitely not. You just got to get yourself into the right deal. You don't want to. I don't like anything that's move-in ready. I'll be honest, and my realtors in Ohio and my realtor in Dallas knows. Don't show him anything that is nice, because he's gonna be uninterested the second you see move-in ready. I like to do the work. I like to put in the finishes. I don't like the builder grade stuff, and I like to like the hoarder house that we bought here last year. It's very custom now. We put a lot of sweat into it every weekend we were out there. We didn't have air conditioning for half the summer in Texas,
Oh my gosh.
so it was a intense experience. But those move-in ready deals are not where I started. That just didn't work for me, and it was just I mean, I know how much more those can sell for once they're nice, and that's what I like doing is making it more.
Absolutely. I like to do that too. One for taste, right?
For sure.
Like if I will not buy another place with freaking white shaker cabinets and like gray granite countertops. I can't do it because I'm so sick of seeing those.
Same.
Um because that's just everywhere here. Everybody has the same kitchen right now.
Right.
Sorry everyone if that's what your kitchen looks like. My last house had it. It was fine, but that's all it is. It's fine. Like I want to have like my taste put into it, but you also want to force that equity in there, and it takes away a lot of competition from the buying process because some people are scared to do work or don't know how to or whatever, or they just straight up don't see it. They don't see the potential in a place.
That's where I've excelled, is because they can't see it. Like the 4 unit that we bought in Ohio. I mean, it was on the market for a while. People passed it over. It was ugly. It was nasty. It was mistreated for years. And once we put a roof on it and put some nice finishes in it, I mean, everybody wanted to rent it. This is a sweet location, and I'm like, I know. So
Yes,
you
exactly.
gotta
And that's how
you
I am
gotta
too.
you gotta see what others can't.
Does your husband see it too?
So he gets it now, but he did not at the beginning. And I just got him into it. So last year, or at the end of 2019, we got him his first. He has a 2 bedroom, 2 bath condo here in Dallas, and I did all the work for it. But he does see what I'm doing, and he's super supportive and goes over and at the hoarder house he's painting floors. I sent him up to I one time I bought a crack house on eBay. That was a rough purchase, but I sent him up there. And this is right after we got together. And I'm like, you can stay in the house. And he's like, there's literally bullet holes in here. I'm not sleeping in this house. And I thought he was lying, but I can assure you that he is not lying. And a positive note on the crack house. We just sold that this year. We picked that up for $13,500, and we sold that this year for 54,000. We put a lot of money into it. We made it nice. We got good tenants in it. We put a new furnace and a lot of that stuff. But I tend to stay away from the crack houses now. And when I purchased it on eBay, I didn't know what I was buying until he went up there and showed me the bullet holes. But it was one of those that at that point I knew I was going to marry him. We weren't even married at that point. And once he went up and worked at the crack house with me, I'm like, all right, this is the one. He has not left me after the crack house. So he gets it. He doesn't. He lets me do finishes. He lets me. He'll give his input and he'll help with anything that he can. I mean, in the house that we live in right now, he put together every single IKEA cabinet out there. So he gets it for sure.
That's awesome. Yeah. I definitely have more vision than my husband Eric does. Like our this house that we bought in Tarpon Springs, Florida, like a little over a year ago now. Like we walked, like we went in the backyard, and like the backyard was like brown concrete and like this like canopy that was falling down, and this super decrepit mobile home, and just like overgrown with weeds and these two like shack looking cottage things. And I was back there and I look at him, I'm like, this is so great. He's like, what are you talking about? And now it's absolutely beautiful because we bought it and fixed it up and everything. But yeah, the vision is huge, but also like having the trust of the partner
For
is
sure.
invaluable for him to be like, I don't know what you're talking about. And me being like, I want to make an offer. And him being like, all right, let's do it. You know, that's a lot. That's a lot to ask from somebody.
For sure.
I don't think we have a duplex in a really bad area.
Hmm.
No bullet holes, I don't think, but there was a murder on the street when we were under contract, and there was a murder last year as well. So
Yeah,
two for two on
the
murders on
bullet
that block.
the bullet holes were fresh from when I bought it. There was actually like a chase, and someone ended up in our backyard, and we ended up on the news, and like our house, not us, because no one lived there. It was under renovation, and
Yeah.
I remember calling the contractor, and I'm like, the roof looks great in these photos. But and then I'm like, are you okay? And he was there when it happened. It was quite wild. So you live and you learn, and we have moved on from that. That is no longer in our portfolio, but it did sit there for a few years, and it was a learning process for both of us for sure.
Oh my gosh. Is there anything that's going to make you learn and grow more than real estate?
No, I mean, seriously, it's always something new. I mean, in all the different flips that I've done, and buying and selling, it's always something new. But now what's exciting, like when we bought the hoarder house last year, it had broken pipes, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I've already done broken pipes. I got this. I'm not. And
I know, right?
I remember the first time when I bought that townhouse and it had the broken pipes, I was like panicked. I'm like, I'm gonna
Yeah.
have to sell everything I own, and I'll be homeless. And I mean, so you adapt and you keep moving.
I know
And
something that I've learned that like something used to freak me out was like a leak, like water somewhere.
for sure.
Now I'm just like, meh, whatever. Take out the drywall, dry it out. We'll fix it. Like, but water used to super duper scare me. We were in our master bathroom here at the bed and breakfast, and it started raining on my head, and like I didn't even blink. I was like, all right, I'll call the roofer. Like, whatever, no big deal. No, I wasted no energy on it, no
Right.
fear, no stress. Just made a call to the one of the people that did a roof for us very recently. Like that is how real estate is, and I don't know if it's Bigger Pockets or who does it, but they call it like the flywheel, right? And you once you go around it a few times, stuff that used to be very hard, and this is kind of all of life when you get experience, but real estate, I just like that flywheel speeds up so quickly that it gets hard to throw a curveball at you. It really does.
For sure. You just as you acquire more and you sell more, you get used to the delayed closings and all these things. When
Mhm.
we were buying my husband's first, he's like, "Why are they asking for this? What is this?" And I'm like, "I've done this 100 times. We got it. We got it. We're good."
Yeah,
He
yeah,
gets
same
that
thing.
now. He gets that now, but
Yeah.
it's just you adapt and keep moving.
No, for sure. And this the Tarpon Springs property last year, like it didn't appraise. And then
Hmm.
like we just contested it and had it got marked deficient, and then had it somebody come out again and they appraised it, and it appraised $55,000 more. And it's like, that at the time freaked I was like freaking out. But now if that happened again, I'd be like, okay, well, here we go again.
I've had it happen too. I totally
Yeah.
get that, and yeah, you just have them come out and do a reappraisal and move forward.
So now you're learning and growing again because you're doing short term. Is this for the first time?
So I've done like my father actually had a property in Florida that he poorly managed himself from Ohio, and we did short term there for a minute, but I'm going to the duplex that we're working on in Ohio has a water view, and we are setting it up to do short term. So this will be the first official. I've cleaned up some of my um, dad's mess in the past, but this will be my first official short term. Yes.
And when is that going to be done?
By November. We're working towards November. I have struggled with reliable help in Ohio. I have good help in Ohio. I have a good contractor, but he moves at a glacial pace. And I have been sending some of my Texas helpers up to Ohio just because they can get things done so much quicker. And that's where I'm at with this property. And last year we actually bought one Texas property, and then in December we just found two deals that were just too sweet to pass, and we picked up two in December. So we've been working on this since late December. We actually fixed the first one, was almost move-in ready, so we spent like January just fixing the first one, and we moved into this one in February, and we've been working on it since February, and now all the things that you can't see are fixed, like the foundation and the
Yeah.
water heater and the roof and all the things that are not fun, and we're finally starting to put in some finishes. So we should wrap that by Halloween, we're hoping.
I don't want to blow by the fact that you brought people from Texas to work in Ohio.
I mean, it's just it's hard right now finding reliable help, and I have had friends in Texas and I have had friends in Ohio who are just so afraid of being burned by these contractors. And I have a really, with doing one condo or one house here in Texas every year, I have a really good team. And I know when I hand them, I'm not afraid to hand them $3,000 to start a job because I know that they're going to do it because they've done it 10 times for me.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I'm one of the, and I do have a reliable contractor in Ohio. I just don't have one that can do all the plumbing and all the, there's so many different, electric and all that. So yeah, I've adapted, and I've also when the contractors go up, I'll be like, hey, go do my grandma's floor for her, or go do my mom's shower, or one of those. So they like it because they get, I put them up in a hotel, they get, a couple jobs out of it. And the weather in Ohio is about 4,000 times better than the weather in Texas right now.
Yeah, so it's not really that hard of a sell.
No.
And that's the thing too, especially with short-term rentals, but also certainly with long-term rentals. Time really is money, right? And I said this on the podcast I did with Stephen Wealthy recently, where it's like, it gets to the point where you're like, that's $100 or a couple $100 a day, right? So if something costs less than that, if let's say every day I could be making $100 on Airbnb, and something costs me $50 and moves me up a day, you do that 10 out of 10 times, right?
For sure.
So you mentioned something, Tom, that I marked in my notes, but I didn't want to ask at the time. But can you explain what a 1031 is?
Sure. So like the condo that I sold in March of 2021, that money it never came to me. It went directly to a 1031 exchange company in Cincinnati, Ohio. I pay them a fee, and I basically rolled that $97,000 into two more projects that I was buying in Ohio, and I used it as one of them I bought completely with that 1031, and then one of them, the other money was the down payment on it. So it's a way to not pay the capital gains on the property that you're selling, and do it all legally. So you pay for this company, you pay $750 to them at the time of the transaction, and then you pay $250 for each transaction you purchase with that money. And it's a way to basically exchange a property. You're basically trading up a property, or trading it to a different rental.
And there's very specific rules too, in terms of you have to have a certain number of properties identified, right, before you close on the first one, and then you have to close on the exchanged ones within a certain time frame.
And
is that right?
Yeah, they're small windows. It's 45. It's 45 days. So from the time I sold that condo, I had 45 days to identify what I'm exchanging it to. And there have been times where I haven't been able to locate the right property, and then I just pay on the gains on that property.
And you lose the $750.
you do lose the 750 and you have to pay
Hmm.
the gains. So it is beneficial if you can find the right property.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, it's definitely worth it. I haven't done a 1031 exchange yet, but I look forward to doing it someday. Thank you for explaining that. I think probably we've talked about that before in the podcast, but I just want to make sure in case there's any listeners that haven't listened to those episodes that they understand that. I mentioned earlier on in our intro that you own a mortgage.
Yes. So I've done this a couple times and I've been successful with it. The one that I currently own is a condo or a townhouse here in Texas, and the gentleman that bought it could not get financed for a loan. So I am basically the bank for him. He pays me each month instead of paying a bank, and within 5 years, well, now within 3 years, he'll refinance it and get a loan with a bank. But he just had not great credit, but he had consistent payments. He had consistent car payments, and I agreed to sell him the townhouse for $90,000, and he put down a 5% down payment because that's all he had, and I am the bank for him.
What's the interest rate?
I believe it's 8.5, but I'm not 100% certain. It's a little bit higher because you're financing them versus a bank, and I don't want to misquote it, but I believe that's what it is.
Okay, that's not a little bit higher. That's like a lot
Well,
higher.
well, and when he bought it a couple of years ago, we were at like 5 at that time.
Right. True. Yeah.
So it's substantially higher from today. So I know he's excited and eager to refinance.
Could he refinance it early?
Oh, for sure, for sure. And
Okay, that's not part of it. It's not like it has to be in year 5 or something.
No, no, no. He can refinance it today, and we've talked about he's kind of working with me on fixing his credit, so we can get him a real solid rate, and that's what we've been working on the last 2 years that he's been there. We've moved him from in the 500s to almost the low 700s, and once we get him over that hump of paying off a few other things,
Mm-hmm.
he'll definitely do a refinance.
Perfect. Yeah. So that, I mean, it really is a win-win. It sounds like, oh my God, he's getting 8.5% on a mortgage, but this guy gets to own a place. You're helping him with his credit. He's going to have, a very normal interest rate at the end of those 5 years, or maybe even beforehand. And that's the thing, guys. We've talked about credit before as well, but just to drive this home, it's really important. The lower your credit score, the more you have to pay for things.
He was when we started on this. We've already refinanced his car. He was over 20% interest on his car.
Yes, I've
and,
heard of that. Yep.
and we've got it down to, I think he's at 7.9 or 6.9 on his car now. And it's a process to fix it, but he knows that he's come a long way, and he loves the townhouse. He works on it all the time and sends me pictures, and I mean he's a perfect fit for what I've done. And I've done this a few times where I've turned tenants into property owners because I'm like, why are you going to keep paying someone else's mortgage?
Yeah, and you want to, assume you also, it lines up with when you want to sell the places.
For sure.
Yeah, very interesting. So can you tell us what your current portfolio looks like?
So we have 5 rentals in Dallas, and we have 5 buildings in Ohio. So that's where the 15 doors comes from. The multifamilies are in Ohio. One of them is the original. And I self-manage the Texas ones. And I have a management company that does everything for me except for collect rent on the Ohio ones. And when the people don't pay rent in Ohio, they will go put up notices for me, but they do not actually collect the rents.
Okay, so you get them, do they mail them to you, or do you get
No,
them
no,
electronically?
we're all digital at this point,
Okay,
and
that makes
and
sense.
we're pretty flexible on those.
Yeah. Hmm. Well, especially right now, you almost like have to be.
Sure.
Cool. So I see. So like 10 properties is a really round number.
Yes.
I think I'd be like, my OCD would tempt me to stick there.
And that's what I always said, but now I almost feel like my husband needs 10, because technically on paper what it is I have 9 and then he has 1, and I always said 10 and I'm tapping out, and I don't know that to be true. We have money waiting. We've been working on some deals for him to pick up his another one for him this year.
And would you say that this entire real estate portfolio really kind of came from side hustle almost, or in bonuses, right? It sounds like your salary, what you're making from your job, it has not really been funding your real estate. And now probably the real estate just funds itself, but
The real estate does fund itself. And yes, I did buy two properties in Texas completely with side hustle money. I didn't take out traditional loans. I mean, they were such small. In 2013, I bought three properties, and one of them was 19,000, one of them was 15,000, and one of them was $9,500. So these aren't mega mansions, and these aren't, a lot of. I own one of those still in my portfolio from 2013, and the other one, the $15,000 one, is the one that I sold in March. But no, I don't traditionally. I side hustle, side hustle, side hustle, put away everything that I make until I have enough for that next property.
see, that's awesome. And that's something too that, and I've said this before, but in personal finance, I think a lot of times people get really focused on spending less, which is important, right? Like,
For sure.
yes, take a look at your subscriptions, make sure you're not paying for any subscriptions that you're not using, consider buckling down, especially if you have a big savings goal, things like that. But the increasing your income side of the equation, I think sometimes gets lost. And look at what it's done for you.
For sure. I've side hustled for as long as, like, when I quit my job with no other job lined up, I was just selling stuff on eBay again. I always go back to eBay in times of need. I do sell on Amazon as well, and I even go back to eBay when I don't need to. I mean, it's just kind of an addictive hobby at this point. We bought some dress. We source merchandise on Sundays, and Dallas, Texas has a ton of great closeout places to source merchandise, and we picked up 17 dresses on Sunday morning. And my husband is definitely at the point where he doesn't ask why anymore. He just sees a shopping cart with 17 dresses in it and he gets it. And on Tuesday this week, he saw we sold one of them already, and we got $69.99 for it with free shipping. So that paid for all the other 16 dresses, and we're nothing but profit here at this point when we sell these dresses.
Yeah. So you like doing it and it makes money, which is
For
awesome.
sure, for sure, it's fun.
So, do you have any like special words of wisdom for young listeners that are basically, for the most part, in their 20s?
I want you guys to um, stop credit carding and stop charging up and burying yourself. I want you guys to be encouraged to know that, like Lauren just said, you guys can increase if you can increase your income, you can dig yourself out a whole lot quicker. But once you dig yourself out, there's nowhere to go but up. I mean, I did not come from a well-off family. I did not have a ton of money coming at me from family or friends. I just kind of had to make it work. And if I can pick up a basket of purses and spend $60 on them and turn them into $70 each and pay for a semester of college, you guys can do this. If you guys see an opportunity, stop waiting for someone else to pick it up. I'm encouraging people right now to just go in and start scanning stuff. eBay app will let you scan it and you can see what it's selling for on there. And that's what we do when we go into some of these stores. We'll just start scanning the SKUs and see what it sells for, and stop snoozing on it, because other people pick it up and make the money. And that's part of what I preach at the Frugal Gay, is just stop waiting. You guys get rid of the debt and then build your empire.
Yeah, absolutely. Amazing advice. Is there anything else you want to add before we wrap up?
If you guys want to connect, if you guys have questions, if you want to, I have people on Twitter tweeting me, should I pick up these t-shirts? Are these good? And I mean, I will respond to you. So definitely feel free to follow or hit me up on Twitter. And if you want to talk real estate, if you want to talk flipping merchandise, if you want to talk finishes, I'm down for it. I'm at the Frugal Gay 11 on Twitter, and that's the best. I'm on there a lot, and would love to hear from you guys.
Yeah, thanks. All right, everybody. So, managing money is a huge part of adulting. We talk about this on every episode. Investing is a huge part of managing money. It's necessary, and there's a bunch of ways that you can do it. And real estate is certainly one of them. And even within real estate, as we're learning week by week, there's different things that you can do within there. And also, side hustling. Haven't talked about it a lot because real estate is basically my side hustle, but there's amazing opportunities out there if you know where to look. You can follow me on Twitter at Adulting is Easy. I'm also on Facebook. You can email me at realadultingiseasy@gmail.com. You can show support at patreon.com/adultingiseasy. Thanks again for listening, everyone. Hopefully, Tom and I have made adulting a little easier for you.